Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would try myself at the New Year's book tag. This video is inspired by the little bookshop on the corner, and she herself found the book tag on Bookables channel, so I have all the questions that were from that book tag, but I also thought I may add a couple for myself just because they're relevant for my channel for this video in particular. So the first question in this book tag is, how many books do you plan on reading in the new year? Although I did put myself a Goodreads challenge of 60 books this year, last year I read 53 in total and I had put myself a challenge of 50 books. I think the reason why I didn't read that many books compared to most booktubers is probably because one, I only started my channel mid-year, and two, it was to come out of a reading slump really. So I had been in a really big reading slump at the beginning of the pandemic, especially since most of the time I read on my commute to work, and then suddenly I didn't have a commute to work anymore. So I had to remind myself that it was okay to read at home. So although I've put this number at 60, it doesn't really mean much to me. I think I'll just read however many I can during the year. I'm hoping to get over that and, you know, do more than 60 books. It would be really cool, especially since I've been reading a lot more since I started my YouTube channel. But also I don't want to put any more pressure than that on myself, so I figured 60 feels like a realistic number, taking in consideration I could have 1 or 2 months of a reading slump in the middle of the year. I don't know what's going to happen yet, so if that's the case, 60 is still achievable. The second question, name 5 books that you didn't get to this year but that you're making a priority for next year. So 5 books that I'm making a priority for this year. The first one is Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. The reason why is this is a sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is a series of YA thriller books and I really enjoyed the first one. I had bought the second one as soon as it came out, but I just haven't gotten to it yet, and I do want to read this one, especially since it's a sequel. I feel like I always just give up after book number 1, even when I really enjoy book number 1, so that's not gonna happen. Definitely making this one a priority. The second book I really want to get to is Anxious People by Frederick Blackman. I bought this one last year towards the end of the year, so it's not like I really, you know, had the entire year to get to it and just didn't get to it. It's just that I really wanted to read it in the month of December, but then I got into a small reading slump and didn't read a single book in that month, and definitely this one is on my priority list. It's one of the books that I was most excited for last year. So I believe this is an adult novel that talks about a guy who, after a failed bank robbery, goes into an apartment open house in the middle of a showing and takes all of those people that are there hostage. And all of those hostages, it says in the summary, each of them carries a lifetime of grievances, hurts, secrets, and passions that are ready to boil over. None of them is entirely who they appear to be, and all of them, the bank robber included, desperately crave some sort of rescue. So it just seems really interesting and completely different from anything I've ever read. The next book that I want to prioritize this year is Middle Game by Shannon McGuire. I've owned this book for so long now, I have heard about this book for so long now, and I just cannot wait to finally get to it. It's just that it's a brick, so I haven't really, you know, wanted to plunge myself into any really big books for the beginning of the year, especially since I hadn't read anything in December, so I made it easy on myself and tried only to read smaller books to start the year with. But I'm probably gonna get to this one in February, or at least, you know, in March. I think this is sci-fi or fantasy, I'm not entirely sure, and this talks about Roger and Dodger, who are twins, and they're very strange and have very specific sets of skills, and I think that it's got to do with someone who's trying to make gods. So they're like, are they like AIs? I'm not entirely sure exactly what they are, but it's literally all I know about this book because the summary makes it very hard to understand what happens in it, and I feel like it's one of those books that's best to plunge into without knowing that much about it. The next book that I really want to read this year is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I have heard so much good stuff about this book in the last year, and I've owned it and had it on my shelves for a while now. I just wasn't too sure whether Leigh Bardugo is an author that I really want to get into because I don't think I'm that interested into her young adult novels, but this is a new adult and maybe that's more up my alley. So we'll see what I think about this. This is about a girl, I think, who gets enrolled into university to try and infiltrate portrayed some secret society, and I think it's quite dark, and literally that's all I know about it. I think it's got dark academia vibes, so hopefully I don't dislike it, because so far every dark academia book that I've tried I haven't liked. But it hasn't been because of the dark academia vibes, it's been because of the slow pace of these books, and I don't think that this one is going to be slow paced, but we'll see. Finally, the last book of these 5 that I want to prioritize next year is Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and this book I owned since the moment it came out, and I've been so excited to read it. I just haven't gotten the time to get to it, and it wasn't on my TBR list for the past few months, so I just want to get to it so badly because everyone's been raving about it. This is a YA fantasy novel. I think it's set in our normal world but with fantasy elements, and it's got to do with this girl who loses her mom, I believe, and then gets into a new school where she meets some sort of a secret society as well, but I think it's got to do with magical powers and something to do with Arthurian legend, but I don't know any more than that. Some people have compared it to other books, but I just don't want to get into it thinking about it that way. Like, I'm gonna go into it with a fresh mind and not thinking to compare it to anything else. So I'm very excited to get to this one. So the next question that is on that list is, what genres do you want to read more of this year? And I think for me, it's probably going to be sci-fi. I'm not going to put pressure on myself to read more classics or non-fiction or even contemporary books, because they're just not the genres that I enjoy. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm reading only of a genre because I don't want to expand my mind. It's because I know what genres I like and I stick to them so that I can actually finish my books and not have to DNF them. I think the only genre that I do enjoy and that I just don't pick up enough is sci-fi, probably because there are so many subcategories of sci-fi, and some of them I love and some of them I don't. When I started my channel 6 months ago, I also started doing these little videos where I read 3 of a genre every time and try to determine whether this is a genre that I enjoy, whether I enjoy these books, and whether I would like to read more of them. And I think I'm going to continue doing this year, so I'm probably going to discover more things that I enjoy than I knew of, and that's the plan, so we'll see what happens. The next question is to name 3 goals that are non-book related. And I think this is one question that I'm gonna modify for myself. This is gonna be 3 goals that I have for my channel rather than 3 goals that I have for reading. So it is book related, but it's more about, you know, my channel than anything else. The first one is I want to try and discover a little bit more what my aesthetic is, and at the moment I'm not quite sure what it is. I have just been starting doing certain types of thumbnails and everything just from the get-go, and I think it's not very long into the life of my channel to know for sure that this is it. So I'm probably going to experiment a little bit more with things like thumbnails, and potentially by the end of the year I may have also a new intro and a new banner and that kind of stuff, because although I really like it, I don't know whether this is it. You know, I want to experiment a little bit more. So that's one goal for my channel. One of my other goals personally for this channel is that I want to talk a little bit more about my writing and do a little bit more things like writing vlogs and explaining things like maybe my story, my characters, not too much spoilers or details, but just a little bit more information, and try and share that a little bit more, because I think it's quite hard for me to share that kind of stuff because I keep worrying it's not good enough, no one's gonna enjoy this. While if I get it out there, I'm finally gonna get over that fear, and it sounds ridiculous coming from someone who's trying to sell herself really and her art and work, so I should be able to be more proud of it and more confident with it. And then the third goal I have for this channel is just to try and determine what kind of themed videos I want to do and do a little bit more of, and the balance between that and just non-themed vlogs. What kind of videos do I want to put out there? Because at the moment I'm just kind of doing, whenever I'm reading a book, I'm filming it, I'm vlogging it, then editing it, then getting it out. And at some point I was doing a little bit more themed videos, secret TBRs and that kind of stuff, and as much as I really enjoyed it, it got a little bit tiring after a while, because I was like, I'm not mood reading whatsoever. I'm not reading other types of books and just reading the ones for these videos during these months. So I think I need to figure out a balance between the two and potentially do shorter TBR game videos, like maybe instead of 8 books, doing like 4 books, and then the other 4 books that I read during the month will be either a mood read or based on a theme and a secret TBR. I think I just need to find the right balance this year. The next question is, what's a book you've had forever and need to read still? I have so many. This question applies to so many of my books, but I think a lot of them I need to finally admit that I'm not gonna get to them and unhaul them, which will be in another video, of course. So the one book that comes to mind when I think about a book that I've had forever and still haven't gotten to is My Sister the Serial Killer. I've owned this book since pretty much the book came out. I was just so excited when I saw it, love the cover, the Pantone green, and then I read the summary and I was like, yes, this sounds like so much fun and exactly the type of book that I need. And then I didn't read it immediately, and then it just stayed there and stayed there and stayed there. And now here we are, I don't know how much time later, and I still haven't gotten to it. So this is definitely a book that I've had forever and still need to read, and really want to read as well, and not just need to unhaul or something. So I'm gonna try and get to it this year as well. I feel like that question was tricky because it was like, it gave me 5 books originally that I needed to prioritize, and then it was like, here's another book you need to prioritize. So yes, I guess this is my 6th on that list. The next question is one word that you're hoping next year is gonna be. I don't really have an answer to that one. I think instead of fitting my hopes for the next year into one word, I'm just gonna talk about my goals, my plans, everything that's gonna happen in the next year for me personally, as well as for my reading plans. This year I need to actually move flats at some point, and that's gonna happen around the month of August, I believe, if everything goes according to plan. We'll come to the end of our lease with my partner here, and we have a plan to move into a flat that has 2 bedrooms rather than just one, and one of these bedrooms will become a little bit of an office studio for the both of us, because we're both working from home constantly now. So the idea is that when I do that, I will finally have proper bookcases, and that's kind of like the main thing that I'm hoping for the year of 2021. It's that I really want my own real bookcases and to have a nice little background for when I'm filming, that kind of stuff basically. I'm also just so excited to potentially moving in a flat that's either completely unfurnished or partially furnished, because at the moment we live in a flat that has furniture already, so nothing is ours except a couple of add-ons that we've, you know, bought during the years. But I'd like to be able to choose my own furniture, and I'm just so excited at that idea. So that's my main goal and the main thing that's gonna happen, I think, in the next year. The other thing as well is I'd really like to be able to see people again and travel again. I'm not holding much hope for this, but my partner is someone who's at risk, and he's gonna get the vaccine quite early on, and I think as soon as he's got it, I'm gonna be a tiny bit less worried about potentially going out meeting people when it is safe, at a safe distance during summer, you know, like when you're able to do like picnics outside or something. I'm sure that it's gonna happen again this year because it did last year when no one had a vaccine. So hopefully we're gonna be able to do that kind of stuff again, even if it's with a limited number of people. Finally, the last thing that I'd like to be able to do in the year 2021 is finishing finally my book that I had, you know, already finished writing but not editing, and finish those edits that I need to do that I wasn't able to get to before the end of the year. So really that's my plan and my goal, and then be able to try and get it published. And if it doesn't happen, I think I'll still want to self-publish it because I really love that story and I really enjoyed what I wrote. So yeah, I think in the year 2021 I'd like to be able to finish that book and then start writing the other one that I've been planning for, and just continue writing. In general, that's one of my goals, is just I want to be able to continue writing. None of those are proper New Year's resolution goals. They're just things that I need to get to, and I don't think that they're gonna be, oh, just in the wind and not done. And that's why I don't really do New Year's resolutions every year. Instead, I do last year's achievements in general, and I just take note of things that I have done in the year. This year in particular, I started a booktube channel, and that was really fun, and I started reading more and more, and that was definitely one of my goals for the last year. So that's the kind of stuff that I like to do, and I definitely encourage you guys to do this because you'll really start thinking about things that you have done and achieved and be proud of yourself, rather than think, wow, 2020 sucked and I did nothing. No, you probably did things, or it could be emotional things like I managed to stay in touch with those friends and those people while in lockdown, or, you know, I survived the freaking year in a global pandemic that no one had seen before. So that kind of stuff still matters, and you should put that in a list just to remind yourself, hey, I've done stuff and I should be proud. On those words, I'm gonna end this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna post more vlogs very soon, and I hope to see you guys very soon for those next videos. So if you like it, leave a like, please consider subscribing, leave a comment, I always respond, and I will see you guys next time.